Hello, everybody. I'm George from Ireland. Well, thank you for coming back to my channel. This is talking about this huge US military buildup around Iran. So, the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran have had a very bad relationship, really, since the Islamic Revolution of 1979. I don't want to go too much into the backstory, but obviously, the United States is an ally of Israel, as they often say. Israel is a mortal enemy of Iran, and so forth. And for 35 years, the Israelis been accusing Iran of trying to develop nuclear weapons. Apparently, the Iranian nuclear weapons program goes back to the 70s, when it was an ally of the United States, if indeed there was one. I mean, it might have been abandoned after Shah was overthrown. But Israel definitely has nuclear weapons, has never told the truth about it. But so Trump goes on about how Zionist he is. And the odd thing is, when there was that huge outbreak of unrest, the demonstrations in January, Donald Trump suggested he was on the side of the demonstrators, that he would come to their aid, and then he didn't and chickened out, and thousands got slaughtered. And now the regime has clamped down, as actually quite firmly in control. Some of the figures, like 30,000 of people shot dead, that is probably an exaggeration, but there's no question that it is a brutal and barbaric regime. So this huge military buildup, why? Now, the United States and Iran are negotiating, and Iran definitely has civilian nuclear energy, as they're entitled to, as many countries do. And they say the aim of that is then they can sell their oil and gas abroad as much as possible, because they're self-sufficient for energy in as much as they use nuclear, they use uranium. I don't know if they have their own uranium. Okay, some people say, oh, that's nonsense, because there's a way of turning civilian nuclear energy into military use. And remember, Iran had submitted itself to very extensive, onerous inspections by the United Nations in 2004, part of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and was observing this with scrupulosity as the US Congress signed off on that one. It was so demanding that some Iranians felt it was a humiliation, a defeat, argued that they should reject it. There seemed to be any alternative to war and so forth. But why are they the only ones that are subjected to these inspections? Why does Israel not have to subject to such inspections, or Pakistan, or the United States, or the UK, or France, or North Korea, or any other declared or undeclared nuclear weapons state, and so on? Because Iran is not invading anyone and not illegally occupying anyone. I know it's a horrendous and cruel regime. It's very oppressive, but it's not attacking other countries. Even as the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in Syria, and their many atrocities, nevertheless, they were helping what was the recognized government of Syria. So, okay, so why is he trying to do this? What is the objective? Is it the degradation of the Iranian military capability? Is it to force them to give in to the deal he's trying to negotiate? Or is it simply saber rattling? He's threatening them and say, either sign this agreement or this is what you're going to get, because they've got those aircraft carriers there and enough assets to sustain a campaign for weeks, maybe months. But I'm told it's quite difficult to assemble this armada and keep it there for a long period of time. There's fuel, there's ammunition, there's rations, there's everything they need. So troops brought in from other bases to consolidate units and so on. The one thing is nobody is talking about is a ground invasion. The United States has had enough of that. And invading Iran would make Iraq look like a picnic. You know, Iran is about 4 times the size of Iraq, and both population and area is very mountainous. It's not been as weakened as Iraq was by those sanctions. I know there have been sanctions on Iran for ages, but Iran's got many more borders, has got fairly good relations with some of its neighbors and so on. So this would be a very, very tough fight. And even those who welcome the downfall of the regime, they don't want to invade the United States, and they really don't think that's a great outcome for them. So he's not going to invade on the ground. Is he going to launch airstrikes? I think it's very likely that he will. He's come this far. He suggested he would intervene. He could have tried to take out the Revolutionary Guard Corps, because they are the Praetorians of the regime, and left the army alone, hoping one of the generals would topple Ali Khamenei and proclaim a new regime, maybe even a military dictatorship, but just not as oppressive and not as anti-Western as the previous one. But that he didn't even go for that. Why is he doing it now? Because Benjamin Netanyahu visited Donald Trump about a week ago in Washington, D.C. We don't know what was said behind closed doors, but why? But Trump has changed tack since then. presumably talked him around to say, no, don't sign this agreement. I'm giving away too much to Iran. And by the way, part of the deal is they've got to give up their long-range missiles. Well, why shouldn't they? I mean, they're entitled to long-range missiles. There's no international convention against that. They haven't agreed not to have these long-range missiles, even conventional missiles. They're entitled to have their armed forces. They've been attacked by Israel. They've been attacked by the United States. They were attacked by Saddam Hussein under Iraq. Their relationship with Turkey has not always been good. It's actually fairly cordial now. And who else do they border? So they border Uzbekistan to the north. They border Turkmenistan. Not such bad relations with them, but it could turn bad. They border Pakistan, and it's tricky with them sometimes. Afghanistan, ruled by the Taliban, is very hostile to them. Then across the Persian Gulf, or the Arabian Gulf, as some of the Arabs insist on calling it, Kuwait, okay, no real problems with them. Saudi Arabia, and they are been at daggers drawn with Saudi Arabia for decades. And indeed, they broke off diplomatic relations for a while, restored a couple of years ago. So that's very difficult. And in the WikiLeaks cables in 2010, King Salman, the father of MBS, was saying cut off the head of the snake, was urging President Obama to launch an unprovoked attack against Iran, which didn't happen. Is all right with the United Arab Emirates, fairly good with Qatar, actually, and Oman. But anyway, so they definitely have foes in the region. So why shouldn't they have conventional nuclear forces? Everybody else does. Is Israel going to give up its its long-range missiles? Is the United States? So why should Iran? They're entitled to defend themselves. The best form of attack is defense. So I think Trump wouldn't go this far with some sort of airstrikes. So the U.S. Air Force fly missions there, and obviously the U.S. Navy's got its own planes as well, some missile strikes and so on to suppress air defenses. That's step one. But the one thing about they will not have the element of surprise. Iran has seen this coming a long time ago. There have been U.S. and military air strikes on them over the past few years. So everybody says what they've done is they've dispersed their assets. They're more difficult to find. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. It's not there's one arsenal you can hit and destroy everything. So they simply have to string this going, knowing that Trump has the attention span of a mayfly. The US public is not exactly enthused by this, and he's not going to topple the regime with airstrikes. Okay, he destroys some of their military equipment, he will kill some of their troops, but it's not enough to bring down the regime. Had he gone all out for it in January, that might have worked. You can weaken them by destroying some of their arsenal. Yes, that's true. You could maybe pressurize them into signing some sort of more extensive deal. So Trump, I'm not sure he knows what his aim is, and he's not stated his aim. Regime change would be going way too far. When has that ever happened? It's very difficult even to get Serbia to withdraw from Kosovo in 1999 with airstrikes from the United States, the UK, Germany, and other countries. So anyway, what's the legal basis for this? I mean, there isn't one. They haven't fired a shot at the United States. They haven't crossed the U.S. border. They haven't claimed an inch of U.S. territory. They haven't taken American hostage. There is no legal ground to do this. It will be an illegal action. It'll be aggression by the United States against Iran. What if, as part of these negotiations, the Iranians fired missiles at the U.S.? Would that be legal? No, it's not a legitimate or lawful negotiating tactic to threaten war. And indeed, it's against the United Nations Charter to threaten war or indeed to start it. Even if it might be bluffing, he may not be going to launch anything, but I think he is. I think he's gone too far for this one. Netanyahu's had a word in his ear and so on. Some of the hawks. Okay, but the Gulf Arabs don't want this because the Iranians have said, if you do that, we will destroy oil facilities in the Arabian Gulf and the price of oil is going to go up. So they were able to talk Trump out of it a few months ago, but I think not this time. So it's an awful pity. People will be killed. And even most people in the Iranian military, they're not bad people. They're human beings. They're defending their country. They're serving their people as they see it. Ask yourself, how would you feel about it if you were Iranian? And so on, because you can't have air defenses around every oil refinery, and actually redound to the advantage of Russia. The oil prices go up. Moreover, Russia will say to the global south, "Look at wicked Uncle Sam going around like a madman, attacking anybody who doesn't agree with them on everything." So we must have a multipolar world. So I'm saying, don't attack Iran anyway, and no good will come of it. Right. So thank you for watching my channel. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, then on PayPal. GeorgeCallan79@gmail.com. Goodbye.